There'll be one. Good afternoon. It is 4 o'clock on December 6, 2021. And on this beautiful afternoon, I welcome you to this meeting of the Conway City Hall that I now call to order. We'll begin with an invocation and pledge of allegiance by Jason Cook from the Refuge. How do you do? Thank you so much for being here.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you for the honor of being here and City Council. Would you join me in prayer? Father, thank you for the honor of being able to be here tonight and the honor of just being a city, Lord, that is unified and moving forward. God, we thank you for our influence and everything that you're giving us the empowerment and equipment to do. Father, we remember all those we've lost this year, and I pray that you would comfort the families as your word promised. We ask for healing, Lord, from this dreaded virus, God, and we just ask that you give our first responders strength, our medical professionals wisdom, and renew the hope of those who are in the hospitals. Lord, I pray that tonight you'd guide all of the decisions and changes that will be addressed and all that will occur as this city council meets and moves forward. And God, we ask that you'd please continue to honor our city, our nation, and state as we endeavor to remember the statements from our founding fathers, and you alone do we trust. And Father, we ask all this in the name of Jesus, and all God's children said, amen. Thank you, Mayor. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We'll now entertain a vote relative to the approval of the agenda. Mr. Goldfinch and Mr. White.
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as listed.
Thank you. Mr. White. Second. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the agenda. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. And now relative to the consent agenda, what is the will of the council? Ms. Helms?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Hyman? Again, we have a properly seconded motion to approve now the consent agenda. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We're now at item 5, public input. This is an opportunity for anyone to approach the council with their comments, with their needs, their concerns, whatever the case may be, except anything that might speak directly to a single employee. That needs to be taken up in a more private session. I know that we have 2 people who've signed up. You don't have to be signed up in advance. There will be an open opportunity for people to come forward. I just need to say a few things about public input. Number 1, when you do come forward, I ask that you begin with your name and address. Secondly, I ask that you speak directly into the microphone because people in the rear have a great deal of difficulty in hearing. And beyond that, I just need to make you know that, help you to know that it is not interactive. It's not a time that we're going to be going back and forth. But if there's something that I can say very, very quickly to help you along, I will do that. Public input is limited to 5 minutes. There's a monitor that will help you to gauge your time. I will try my best not to stop anybody mid-sentence unless your sentence is very, very long. We have 2 people signed up, and I will call them in the order in which they were given to me, after which time I will invite others to come forward. Chief Hatcher, I don't see you. He may come later. I think his request was that he may be here this afternoon. And secondly, Reverend Carol Moore Adamson, if you'd come forward, please. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I greet you with Jesus' joy, and I am grateful to be able to stand before you. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Carol Moore Adamson, and I'm the pastor of Palmetto Missionary Baptist Church, the executive director of Palmetto Works Community Development Corporation, and also the newly elected president of the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society Incorporated. And I'm coming on their behalf. We have been engaged in a conversation with the city since the news broke on July 20th, 2021, that the city had proposed to tear down the Whittemore Elementary School, and we want to continue that conversation. I want us to be called into conversation rather than calling each other out. And I want a dialogue with the city on behalf of our community. So I just have a few things that I'd like to say. The Whittemore Race Path Historical Society would like to confirm our commitment to collaborate with the city on the Whittemore Elementary School project. We are available, ready, and willing to assist the city in plans for the preservation of Whittemore Elementary School and the development of the community center at that site. And we're asking, is the city willing to work with us? We would like for you to please share written details on how you will include the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society, the African American community groups, alumni of Whittemore schools, and other interested parties. Can you provide us with the $14 to $20 million cost estimate? We need details on how that figure was calculated, who determined the cost as estimated, and line items on the work included as proposed in that estimated cost. It was not included in the material that we received based on reviews by our advisors. We would like to schedule a workshop with the mayor, the city council, and staff on a plan for collaboration. And finally, we have seen dumpsters on the property, and we would like to know more about that activity, the process for preserving the building, and the timeline for any other activity. I think you all have my contact information. I've appreciated the conversations that I've had with various ones of you to this point, but we really would like to sit down and negotiate from this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else present who would like to participate in public input? There being apparently no one, I'm so sorry. That is going to be a separate public hearing, and I'm glad you're here. We will have an opportunity for those of you who want to speak one way or another on that issue a little bit later. Thank you so much for asking. Is there anyone else? I would make a motion then that we close public input at this time. Mr. White.
Second.
We're probably seconded motion to close public input. All in favor, with show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Item 6, special presentations. Recognition of the creator of the needle depiction of the Main Street Bridge. I'm going to gladly do that, and I'm going to say publicly that I have forgotten his name. I rode up in the elevator with him. I thanked him the whole way up, and I've forgotten. Brimlow. Thank you, Mr. Brimlow. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It is very unusual that a resident or a friend of the city would come forward with something as beautiful as this piece of art. I came into City Hall one day, not suspecting any such thing, but this has been made personally by Mr. Brimlow and brought to us as a gift to the city. I was here for several hours that day, and as everybody came in and noticed that I heard nothing but a series of oops and ahs. Mr. Brimlow, would you join me, please? I assure you that before you showed up today, this had a prominent place on our wall in City Hall. We took it down only so that we could display it here today. We thank you wholeheartedly for your talent in needlepoint. I mean, who knew? And that you could pick this up on our Main Street Bridge. Can everybody see? The next presentation is for the artist of the Conway City's Christmas card. Will Tyler Holt and his family come forward, please? Ms. Goldfish. Yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Thanks so much. Hi, Tyler. How do you do? So glad that you guys are here. Every year, the city of Conway has a Christmas card competition. And youngsters from all over the city, whether they're representing a school or not, get to compete. And the selection made by the city council for this year's Christmas card was created by none other than Tyler himself. Tyler, we're very proud of you and your work and your talent and for your submission and for your winning. And as a result of that, we have printed up 25 cards, 25 of your cards, so that your family can share them with your family and friends, and a gift card for $100. God bless you and Merry Christmas. And the final recognition is, well, not final recognition, but of this sort is for the 2020 CP Quattlebaum Design Awards. I'll need some help again, please. That's right. Please come join us. I wondered why you were there. I wondered why you were standing there. The Quattlebaum Awards go to commercial and residential designs, new builds and renovations in the city of Conway. And the reason that we do a 2020 award so late in 2021 is because it takes getting well past December of 2020 for all the decisions to be made. So this year's 2020 award for outstanding restoration of a non-residential building goes to Rivertown Pharmacy at 2000 Main Street. Dale Todd is our recipient. Dale and Mrs. Todd are our recipients, and we congratulate you and thank you for the investment you've made in our city. The next award is for Forest Beverly. There it is. Mr. Joseph Cornelius, really glad to have you with us. He is the contractor. So the outstanding new construction of a non-residential building is awarded to Beverly Helms Office Building. You've all seen that beautiful teal building on 501. It's located at 1516 Highway 501 East. We congratulate you on your selection and thank you for your investment in the city of Conway. for outstanding design effort, I'll ask Ms. Kelsey Massengill to come forward, please. If she's present, she is. Thank you for being here. Ms. Massengill, and these things are on the screen. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, we get to see the design that caught our eye. This outstanding design effort is viewable at 909 Live Oak Street and is the residence of Ms. Massengill. We applaud you for your design and for your investment in the city of Conway. And for outstanding contribution to quality development, restoration, landscape, or design by an organization or individual, I'll ask Ms. Melissa Dean Johnson to come. Oh, perfect for her time. Let her husband join you. It's all right. The Animal Hospital at Conway Animal Hospital at 3304 4th Avenue has won the outstanding contribution to quality development, restoration, landscape, or design by an organization or individual, and we congratulate you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Goldfinch. Thanks so much. You're next. So where are we now? And item D is presentation of longevity awards, November 2021. Mr. Emmerich will make the presentations. Thanks, sir.
In 2001, City Council created a policy to recognize our employees in increments of 5 years of longevity with the city. And tonight we're happy to be able to recognize 3 employees. First is Andy Romelot Jr. from our solid waste department. Andy, I know Andy's here. There you go. Come on up, Andy. Andy was hired as a heavy equipment operator 1 in 2016 and was promoted to heavy equipment operator 2 in 2019. He also has been instrumental in many of the fantastic public projects downtown with his wonderful brickworks. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. Next on our list is Ted Dudley. Ted will join us while I read about him. Ted is celebrating 15 years with the city of Conway. In 2006, he was hired as a construction inspector line locator. In 2015, he was promoted to meter maintenance supervisor. Ted, thank you for your 15 years. The final recognition tonight is for Landis Huggins. Landis here tonight? There's Landis. Come on up, Landis. Landis was hired in 2006 as well, celebrating 15 years of the city. He was hired as a utility tradesworker 1 and was promoted in 2007 to utility tradesworker 2. Thank you tonight for 15 years with the city of Conway.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmerich, and congratulations to our employees. Item 7, public hearing and first reading. A, public hearing and first reading of ordinance ZA 2022-0103A to annex 32 3/4 acres of property at 2615 Nixon Avenue, PIN 33700000014 and 33710300001, and rezone from Horry County CFA to City of Conway institutional, and rezone just over 6 acres in the city limits, PIN 337-110-10001 from R1 to industrial or institutional. Which is
Institutional.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Public notice, we did send out letters. We posted 2 signs in the property and the legal ad ran appropriately for holding the public hearing. So this is this is a public hearing and a potential first reading for the Horry County Board of Education. The reason for the request is to allow the Horry County Schools to build a future middle school on this site off of El Bethel Road. Currently also has access off of Nixon, but that will likely go away in the new design. The process that we have before you is a 2-step process. One will be the annexation of the 2 properties that are in the center of the map shown on the screen. The larger one that has the former track and the smaller piece that's going down Nixon. And they're shown in a yellow bracket as annexation and rezoning. So those properties are not currently inside the city limits of Conway, but would be proposed to be annexed. In addition, there is a section of property owned by the school board that parallels and abuts El Bethel Road. That's inside the city limits and currently zoned R1 that they're asking to zone to institutional as well to make the entire project synonymous with the zoning from one lot to the next. As we discussed in the workshop, we look at the future's land use zoning and the current zoning for the area. In the current zoning properties, there is institutional just north of the property. That is the recent rezoning for McLeod Health. And there's also, there's also future uses zoned in that area, institutional. The current or this future land use map shows where highway commercial in that area, but schools are also allowed in that zone. So it is not an out of place fit for the potential use with the future land use. The institutional district permitted uses does allow for an educational facility. So we double check that to make sure that it allows for what's being requested. This also went by the Planning Commission for review. They did recommend approval as requested, and staff also recommends approval as requested.
Thank you, Ms. Harden. This is first a public hearing relative to this issue. Is there anyone present who is here to speak either in favor of or against this this ordinance? Mr. Goldfinch. Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Ms. Timms? We have a properly seconded motion to close the public hearing part of this decision. We'll now entertain a motion from council. Yes, sir. Mr. Goldfinch.
Ms. Harden, if, and I know we just rezoned the properties adjacent to this institutional purposes of the medical facility. Educational buildings can also go in R1, correct?
Yes, education can go in R1.
Is there any reason to rezone this institutional in the event the school district were to back out of this particular property and then sell it to someone who can then use it for all the other purposes of institutional, which would then be adjacent to the random neighborhood?
If my memory serves correctly, institutional has better site planning operations or opportunities for institutional facilities. Whereas in the R1, the setbacks are a little more strict and stringent. R1 schools, while they are allowed in R1, typically end up with something more like a neighborhood school than a larger middle school. And Mr. Emmerich has additional information.
Well, 2 things. Number one, there was not a vote to close public hearing, just a motion and a second. And after that, I do have a second. But
All right, so let's take care of that vote. All in favor of closing the public hearing with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for the
Thank you.
correction.
Secondly, what was recently approved was McLeod Health, not a subdivision. So it would be next to an additional institutional use.
Well, across the street, across the street.
No, El Bethel is quite a substantial road. It's got 4 lanes plus a divided median. And those are typically the kind of roads that bear zoning changes quite well. And it's a corridor that requires buffers on both sides. So there'll be additional buffers between the uses and the residences.
Thank you, Ms. Harden. Mr. Hammond. If you would, please. Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Timms? We have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading of this ordinance. Is there any further discussion or questions? Mr. White?
Question. Is there anyone here from the school district? And it's not about this property, but the current Whittemore Middle School. Have the plans for that been determined yet? Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hubbard? Did I see your name? I mean, your hand?
Yeah, didn't we just go through this? Some other school properties for the flashing signs out there?
Yeah, we went through it. They made a request for all of the existing schools, many of which were in established neighborhoods. This is different in that this is a brand new school in an area that is mostly vacant property at this point.
In addition, the El Bethel corridor is going to be the extension of the Conway perimeter road, as we will be discussing a little bit later on the agenda. So this is going to be a highly trafficked road.
Anyone else? We'll call the vote. All in favor of approving first reading, with a show of hands, please. And first reading passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Item B, public hearing and first reading of ordinance ZA 2020-0103B, an ordinance to annex 2 tracts of property along South Carolina Highway 548, PIN 32600000047, being 19 and 15/100 acres, and PIN 32600000027, being 63 and 46/100 acres, and rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to Horry County Commercial Forestry and Agriculture to City of Conway R2 Medium Density Residential for PIN 32600000047, and City of Conway R1 Low to Medium Residential for PIN 32600000027. Ms. Harden.
Thank you, Your Honor. 15 letters sent, 2 signs posted, and legal ad run for this potential first reading and public hearing. The property, there are 2 properties in the request. We gave them to you as a workshop as 2 separate requests, but we were able to consolidate the ordinances into one since they're both in the same interest. The larger tract that's shown on the left in the map is proposed to be zoned R1, which is single family, low to medium density. The smaller tract, the 19 acres, which is just directly behind Tractor Supply, is proposed to be the R2, which has a little higher density, it's medium density residential. And the purpose for that section is a townhome proposal. As you can see by the map, this area is along the Church Street 501 corridor, near the outlying areas of the city limits. We have the pick and pull just below, just south of that, and 4 Mile Road and Highway 548 are adjacent to this. We also look at current zoning and future land uses. We don't currently have property on this side of Highway 501 except for the Tractor Supply and the hotel, but these would be adjacent to it together until you go down closer to the city limits, in which case we have Wood Creek subdivision and Forest Glen, which are in the city limits. Also adjacent, or not adjacent, but close by to this potential rezoning is the Country Manor subdivision and properties that are owned by developers down the road, such as Beverly Homes. That will be future residential neighborhoods a little bit further away off 501 from the property that's here. Our future land use map goes out to what we looked at the time that this was done as potential growth limits. And we do have this shown as a low density residential. However, for the record, the staff did discuss challenges to response in these areas, in that these are the farther out reaches of the city. And one of the things that we would like to propose as part of the discussions that come up in budget is how to address the additional needs of police and other services in this area. I like annexation personally. I'm a big fan of growth and being able to control your growth boundaries by having the property zoned in a zone that we manage versus another jurisdiction, be it any jurisdiction. However, we do need to be responsible with that discussion, and the chief had input on this. So I want to make sure and honor that and bring it up during the public hearing as well. For the permitted uses, the R2 is single family and multifamily with conditional uses and accessory uses, where the R1 is primarily single family and conditional and permitted uses for that area. The Planning Commission reviewed it and did make a recommendation to approve it as requested. And staff, recognizing the challenges of the expansion that's already in the area of Country Manor and Beverly Homes property, we recommend approval with future discussions about resources.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. What's the will of the council? Oh, this is first a public hearing. Thank you for the reminder. Is there anyone present who would like to speak either in favor of or against this ordinance? How do you do?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. My name is Dan Stacy. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Mainly just to provide information to the council if you have any questions, but also to point out it's currently zoned, a goodly portion of it is highway commercial. And so it could be a fairly intense commercial use as it's currently zoned in the county. And the desire of the applicant is to have a nice single family section in the back and transition from the commercial area of the Tractor Supply with these smaller townhomes, which we think will be ideal for, I think the city of Conway is like most cities in the Southeast and most cities in the country. It's difficult for a firefighter or a school teacher to find a good place to live. And that is the plan here, is to try to price these things in such a way. I know it's a zoning hearing, but that is the intent. But really to answer the questions that the council may have, if you have any that I can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else present who'd like to speak either for or against the rezoning and the annexation? Rezoning. Alex, Mr. Hammond, sure. I can see these flowers. I think you just moved to close the public hearing. Mr. Jordan, we have a properly seconded motion to close the public hearing at this time. Are there questions or comments? So much. I'm sorry.
I guess we need to carry the vote.
Okay, all right. All in favor, with show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item C, I'm sorry. That is just for
That was to
closing.
close public hearing,
That's just
and
close.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm sure there may be some questions. I'm not sure whose hand was up first. Mr. Goldfast?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, is hard to express some concern last time. You know, other than Tractor Supply, there's nothing, I'm looking at the map, there's nothing that touches the city over there. Now I know the other side of the 501, you know, Country Manor and other neighborhoods, they're not going out any further. And those are areas that we can fill in our donut holes. My concern about this property is we're creating another tentacle, you know, and so it's not just, by the way, I love what you described and doing. And whether it stays in the county or is annexed into the city, I think it's a great thing for the people that you described. But my concern is, okay, so now we do this, you know, then the next farm gets sold. And that tentacle just keeps getting longer and longer. And what I'd really love to see is some kind of cost benefit analysis. And I don't know how you do this, but because I want to know, what does that, and I hate to think in terms of a business, but we are a business. What does that generate? Or what will that generate for us? And collectively, does that justify the additional resources needed? You know, when we're running from the backside of Broadway to Highway 548. And that's my real concern. If we go there, where does it stop?
And that's definitely something that we could do. One of the things that we're doing in 2022 is reevaluating the sections of the comprehensive plan that need to be updated and amended. And that is on the list of things to do, is look at potential growth boundaries and to see where we might want to limit it. If at all, if you do want to limit it.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. White.
my question is similarly, with the fact that we're going that far out, how are we going to police that area and fire protection, all that good stuff? Does that mean we're gonna have to build another fire department or police department, or are we gonna add more staff?
At this time, fire didn't have any comments that say that they had an issue serving the area. Of course, one of the things we always want to talk about is, do we have enough police presence and do we have enough reach for that? Do you have anything you want to add for that?
I'm going to confirm with our fire chief back there, but I believe this is within our contract service area anyway, so we would respond if there was a call there. Correct. Okay. So police is a little bit different because we don't have a contractual area that we are responding for the county, but we already are sending fire to this area, regardless of whether it's in the city or not.
And our utility services are already out there.
Right. Mr. Hyman.
Service. I'm good with it.
And I would just add that in prior discussion, I thought that there was a general consensus that 4 Mile Road might be the extent of our extension. And I didn't hear anything from us that said that we wanted to limit that to one side of 501 as opposed to just using that as a mark.
These are all conversations that planners love to chew on. I'm so excited about it. I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm
would you
giving
please?
away my geek. I apologize.
Mr. Goldfinch.
This is all part of a broader discussion that needs to be centered around the reality that our growth isn't paying for itself. That, and this isn't a bad thing, it is what it is. But, with the homestead exemption and a disproportionate amount of population that qualifies for that, that really cuts into our resources. And so if we can't make that up somehow, it burdens us. And so I would just ask that
It's not a unique conversation. The city of Myrtle Beach has had the same conversations, especially because they have that tax rebate fund that for every person that comes into the city, it reduces the amount of rebate that the next person's getting. So it is a conversation that a lot of communities are having and should have, absolutely.
Mr. Hyman,
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve first reading.
thank you. Is there a second? Mr. White.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve first reading of this ordinance. All in favor with a show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item C, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to exempt specific properties from application of the Title III Public Works, Chapter 4, Tree Preservation in the Code of Ordinances for the City of Conway, South Carolina, 38300000321, 38300000337, 38313020070, 38313020072, and 38416010030. Ms. Harden.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. 129 letters were sent out on this project. 5 signs were posted on the properties involved, and legal ad did run in order to hold this public hearing. The background on this request is a little bit to give you a little bit of background on Wild Wing as well. The Wild Wing Plan Development was adopted by Conway in 2000 and states that all plans for development with this PD, which is planned development, shall be in accordance with the current City of Conway land development regulations at the time of the permit approval. There were adjustments and other amendments made during the years One of which is in 2007, the city updated the tree protection ordinance in Title III. In 2011, Conway combined the land use development regulations with a zoning ordinance into a unified development ordinance. And then in 2019, the most recent activity on the property shown on the screen was that there was an amendment made to Wild Wing to allow institutional uses on selected tracks. It included the height limits and density limits for institutional. In 2018, the property was under discussion and the applicant had a schematic drawn up to show the buffers that would apply on this piece of property. And he has provided that to the city. We scanned it in and included it in the presentation. There's also a paper copy up here at the front. And it shows the different perimeter buffers required in the plan development. When we took this to the Planning Commission, in the discussion with the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission cited that because there are unknown conditions on the site for jurisdictional wetlands, that is something that is not in the record from the last discussion, and that the applicant had not gone forward before the tree board to ask for relief as part of the process is required or is available to them, that the Planning Commission recommended denial of the request. And staff has been on record as being in favor of denying the request as presented as well.
Thank you, ma'am. This is first a public hearing. I know there are people here present who are ready to speak either for or against the passing of this ordinance. And I will allow those people to speak at this time. I will maintain the right after I've heard, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people speak pretty much to the same interests. I'll just ask generally how many people are here with that thinking so that we get a sense of what everybody's here for without having taken the time to hear everybody speak. Who wants to go first? Yes, please, if you would. If you give us your name and address and as much as you can, speak into that mic, please.
Sure. My name is Robin Doyle. I live at 1038 Muscovy Place in Wild Wing, in Conway, of course. I first wanted to say good afternoon to everybody and those people who are here as I am to object to this rezoning. Thank you for showing that. You know, I moved down here just a little more than a year ago. And the reason that I came down was because I love the values of your city and your city itself. And I'm glad I did. I'm concerned, though, that I'm seeing a duplication of what I saw where I came from, which is Long Island, New York, about 45 years ago. I'm seeing everything being plowed down and not having an infrastructure in place to absorb. I don't believe that people who have invested in properties should be told that they can't build on those properties. Of course, they should be able to. But I think that when you start to take away the aesthetic of a particular community, you're taking away the reason that people have come. And what I'm most concerned about, and I'll try to make it brief because I hope other people would like to speak, is that to rescind the requirements with taking down trees, you know, if you have to design around trees, then you'll impact access to the sites, the density, the stormwater design. You'll impact those things. And lakes, they fill up. They don't do what trees can do. Trees can better control floodwater than lakes can. So to me, I think that there should be a happy medium somewhere. I don't think that we should try to prevent the owner of these properties from building on them, but perhaps being considerate of those people who already live here. I'm also under the impression that there was some sort of a change to the property where they're proposing, in addition to the assisted living, 600 units being built along Wild Wing Boulevard, which to me, in just simple logic, means 1,200 more vehicles traveling through. And I think that we're all well aware of the problems on 501. Took me 15 minutes to get 1 mile to get here, which is why I wasn't 10 minutes early as I usually am for something of this import, you know? I don't know what thought's been given to that, but maybe it's a little soon to start putting all of these new buildings in an area that's already really stressed. I think it comes down to responsible planning. And if we can plan ahead and then build, okay. But right now, I don't see it personally. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so-
Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you,
I
sir.
want you to respond, but I don't.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Scott Coleman, 1109 Widgeon. My backyard view of what they're planning back there is the reason I bought the lot. I knew they were going to sell the property. There's going to be development. I know the value of trees to this city. When they go to the value of certain heights and diameters that you have to use geometry to figure out if you're allowed to trim or cut down a tree, and you want to give this developer free rein. The other developments that are on that side were all done, nice entrances, maintained the street to have a beautiful avenue to come in. That avenue is my backyard. If they can design it, keep a nice tree buffer, fine. You cannot give them free rein to do what they want to do in this city that values the trees as much as they do. I have a very ugly oak tree in my front yard that I have to clean up after every day, that this city values so much, I can't take it down. Don't let them have free rein. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else, please? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Katai, 1038 T-Shot Drive, Fairway at Wild Wings. I'm also on the HOA board, and I apparently got voted to be here to ask a couple questions. I heard some of the answers already. I believe the development of the proposal is somewhere around 600 units. If I'm not mistaken, that was a number that the previous speaker gave. So that answers that. We also have tremendous concerns about traffic due to the one-way in and out at this time. But the real question I'll ask, it's already been brought up to members of our board that there is an easement request or an access request bordering the proper line or the property line along the fairway at Wild Wings. I don't know if this is the proper time to get into that, but we would like to get more information on that because we're not clear on what is being asked for access into and out of that should building take place. Our residents are concerned about, like everyone has said here, the loss of trees. Everyone moved here apparently for green space, and we all appreciate that. It's also been brought up that that water retention pond would be reduced in size, if that's a correct statement as it was proposed to me. That's a concern because of water overflow during large rains, and where is that water going to go in a reduced retention pond? So we would love to meet with any party or parties for more direct conversation, not to belabor the point to everybody here, but I really don't know who that is looking at everyone here. So, you know, if someone can tell me that afterwards, that would be great. You're a good man.
I think that would be your answer.
Okay, well, I believe it will. All right, that was our question, and I believe we'll have more follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there others? Yes, please.
My name is Jacqueline Hunt, and I moved here from, I'm short.
Would somebody help
I'll talk
Ms.
loud.
Hunt?
I moved here only 4 months ago from Chicago. And what I've seen once I got down here, thinking I can get a job in Myrtle Beach after I found out about 501, I nixed that plan. So I do not believe there should be any more construction going on until 501 has some planning done to it. You have plenty. Coming from Chicago, we have no more room to expand highways. You have room in the middle on either side. Nothing should be done until that road gets expanded. And if you need to create a referendum to get some more tax dollars, I'd be happy to sign that because the stress on people trying to get anywhere south. I don't really go north too much, but it's just incredible. So that is my first, the infrastructure has to be addressed. I cannot believe when I got here how sad of shape the infrastructure here is. It's ridiculous. And whoever's in charge of this should be fired. I'm sorry. I'm blunt. I'm from Chicago. I'm a very nice person, but I'm very, very disappointed in what I moved into. The other issue I have, I live in Kiskadee. Are you planning, the development, is it going to be a Kiskadee type unit or more like what is farther down on Wild Wing? That's what I want to know, because if it's going to be Kiskadee, no, thank you. More crime. We do not want the Section 8 houses coming in anywhere. We've just gotten crime ridden in the last 3 weeks. So that would be a major concern that I would have. Second, I have to my notes because I had one other. Yeah, and obviously the Wild Wing Boulevard itself, trying to get a left turn to get onto 501, you have to wait 2 lights as it is right now. So that's just not really feasible. And then, the natural beauty is being taken away. The Carolina Pines. I do not feel I'm part of the problem because I bought an existing home. To build more homes is being part of the problem. That's all I have to say. Thank you. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you. Any others, please?
Always do that.
Oh, no.
My name is Steve Sosinski. I live at 1028 Fairway Lane. Almost 4 years ago, when the development was proposed behind our property, I was assured by the engineering department that it would be a 50-foot buffer, 25 from each side. And our side is all trees and the other side currently is all trees. And I do not want to see those trees mowed down just because it might be expedient for some developer. Leave the 50-foot barrier, leave it in trees.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
I'll ask just to cut off the individual presentations. How many of you are here to voice concerns or to speak against the proposed changes? Thank you so much. You're all noted. I'm sorry.
I wanted to discuss it, but I have some information in regards to flooding.
Is there anything that has not already been spoken of? Please come on. You may show your pictures. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Diane Mick, and I live at 1130 Fairway Lane. And I used to live across at Kiskadee Park, probably for 12 years. And horrible flooding problem. And whenever we get any amount of rain, we have this one drainage ditch And that's all we have for infrastructure. So you can see the parking lots, they become rivers. There's kids from the college that are tubing, you know, they get in the cars and tube around on it. When we had that 1,000-year flood, or we had the National Guard, we couldn't get in or out. They came in to assist. There's trucks to see if we needed help and to give us water or whatever. So I'm just concerned that taking all the trees down, you know, it contributes to the flooding. Nothing has been done about this. Here's the kids paddling in a canoe type raft. You know, and just having this one ditch, it's very concerning, and it's up against some railroad tracks. So I don't know how they would make that bigger. I have these photos in a packet if you all would like them. This is just my second time. Don't know what the protocol is. Or if you'd like to see these, whatever you'd like.
Might we just keep your display?
You
Or
sure?
would you
Yeah.
prefer that we keep
You
the,
can, whatever will help. I even have Post-its and
sure.
the different hurricanes and stuff that came through.
Well, this is first reading, and whatever happens this evening, there may be depending on what happens this evening, there may be an opportunity for us to need to see those if you don't mind. And we can take very good care of them
Yeah.
so that you can reclaim them.
Yep. And if you need the packet, I have 2 packets of, they're like 50 pictures each. So let me know and I'll give them to you.
All right, thank you so
Thank
very
you so much.
Absolutely. Do you have something new to add to what we've already heard, ma'am?
I have a question, please.
Yes, please, yes.
My name is Adriana Howard. We just moved in Kiskadee Park. Please, can you tell me if you know when they're gonna finish building the Kiskadee Park, the 18 acres inside the park?
Let me ask you to do this, if you would, please. He's going to hand you a business card. If you would contact that person, we don't really talk back and forth in public hearings, but if he would have selected exactly the person that you need to speak
Because
with.
they're not talking to us either. The park guys.
Yes, ma'am.
They don't talk to us either, as long as they take our money. But I don't mind if you want to cut down trees to build. This is, you know, it's what's happening. People have to have houses. Do it. I have no problem. We have too many trees. I mean, way too many trees. With allergies and all, I mean, to cut 15, 20 trees, it will not hurt to me, they're not going to hurt me.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you too. We'll entertain a motion to Mr. Goldfinch.
So moved.
All right, is there a second, Mr. White?
Second.
We have probably seconded motion to close the public hearing on this matter, and we'll now hear from the council. All in favor, with show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Ms. Timms.
I'd like to ask somebody, Mr. Enrique or Ms. Harden, someone to speak to the buffer that will be around this property, because I don't know that everybody's familiar with the rules like some may be.
Thank you, ma'am. The buffer exhibit that's shown on the screen and also here in the in person is showing where the plan development calls for buffers. And those buffers have regulations. You have to have a certain amount of plants, certain amount of trees. And the areas that are shown on here, there is a 25-foot buffer typically required around this property. And then the applicant has shown that when you add in the lake around Spoonbill and the buffer around that property, that there are sections of it that become more or closer to 100 feet. There are also sections where it's not quite as thick. There'll be some changes if stormwater is required to change in these areas where the buffer is shown as being very small or not there because the pond is there. Then there may be some changes there. But the buffer is not required to be the trees that are there. It's also allowed to be trees that are planted.
The trees that are there will not be removed from the buffer. Is that my understanding?
I don't think that.
They can be.
They can be. Because the buffer requirements are vegetated buffers and you have certain amount of material that is required to be there. But you can start back over after a piece of property. And there's also opportunities to use combinations of vegetation and fencing.
I'm not sure I understand all that, but.
You can utilize the existing natural buffer that is there, or if it's removed, you replant it pursuant to our guidelines. Or actually pursuant to the Wild Wing guidelines. Either way, it's 25 feet.
I'm afraid not. I wish I could entertain your question now, but it's just not in the proper place. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hubbard.
Sorry.
Can you address the difference in the buffer requirements if this PD is approved and if it's not approved?
Very generally, not specifically, because I don't have the plan development buffer guidance with me. I apologize for that. But the difference is that in a plan development, the buffer is set in the document. And if there's any leniency from that, it has to be negotiated back through an amendment to the plan development. In the plan development, the buffer in our code ordinance, buffers are allowed to be certain depths based on what property they're abutting. So 25 feet up against a residential zone, 15 feet up against a commercial zone, 10 foot if you're light uses. And 5 of those feet can be amended out of that buffer by putting in a fence. And that's what I think.
Were you asking if the buffer is being amended in this request, or?
What I was asking is, would the buffer be larger if the PD was approved?
The buffer remains the same
Right.
regardless of this action tonight.
Mr. Hammond.
I think what Shane is asking is if this was institutional without a PD, what would the buffer be?
It'd be 15 feet.
So it's 25 because of the PD.
Yes. And if it was residential, it'd be even less.
One of the other things that, and I don't know if you know this, but I heard some infrastructure questions about this, and I've made comments about this quite a few times. One of the biggest problems with Wild Wing is that infrastructure was not put in to have anything like this. None of the houses that are out there. It was put in for a golf course or 5 courses. And I do want you all to know that that was not the city of Conway. That was the county. And all these roads that we're talking about are county and state. They are not city of Conway roads. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of the things y'all are talking about, is we really don't have control over it. Nor did we have control over it when it was ultimately done 25 years ago. I think it was more than 25 years ago. All my friends growing up worked there at the golf courses. And prior to that, I grew up hunting in those areas. So it's changed a lot in the last 30 years. But I do want you to understand that infrastructure issue was not of our making. It was not the city's making. But as far as that goes, looking at the difference by right, what can they do on it right now?
There's about the planned unit development, or the plan development for Wild Wing is set out on a map. And there are density attached to different parcels. The 2 parcels that are involved here have the ability to go up to, I think it's 570 residential units.
And that's about right.
By the map, yes, sir. That was done, that was started with a certain number in 2000 and then increased and amended through the years, through the amendments, and that's where it sits now. Now, because it's also allowed institutional, those units can be done in a different format. They don't have to be single family.
Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. Heard a lot of good comments and questions and concerns from folks this evening that really, and they're important, but they don't have anything with, most of them, with what we're specifically discussing, which is, do we exempt the this property from the, tree preservation code, which leads me to my question. If this was a planned development created in 2007, years before the tree ordinance, how does that apply to this parcel?
Because the tree ordinance existed before 2007, it was amended in 2007.
Okay.
And so all the properties, all the rules that were in place at that time were referenced in the plan development as being applicable to this plan development. At the time, we called it a different ordinance, and at the time, we had something called the Conway Land Development Regulations, whereas now we have the UDO, or the Unified Development Ordinance. Both the Land Development Regulations and the Unified Development Ordinance, even though they have a different name, they both fit the same title and code of the state law and meet that requirement for a community. So they're the same type of vehicle. May not be the exact same name, but they're the same vehicle. And when one is changed, the change is done automatically at the same time so that there's no delay. Had there been a delay, there might have been a discussion point about that.
Ms. Timms?
I'd like to address one other comment to the board, particularly that's dealing with the amount of water that was collected out at Wild Wing and the fact that there's just one ditch. And a lot of you have just moved here if you live in Wild Wing, or some of you have. And you may not have been here for some of our flooding that we had in the past. And we're very limited, just like we are with the roads and things that we don't own. We're very limited as to what progress we can make in terms of flooding, major flooding. We can handle a lot of rain, we can handle a lot of water, but we can't handle the flooding as we had it with the infrastructure that we have. This is federal money we need here for that, because the city would never be able to afford to take care of all the water that came in. I mean, we had canoes going up and down all streets in Conway. It was really interesting, not all of them, but a lot of them. So that's a problem that I think that is outside of our domain for the most part, except for making sure that we do what we can to take care of that problem for the future.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to clarify that this is not a hearing to decide whether or not this property is going to be developed. We can't stop that. We really can't stop cutting the trees. It's just a matter of paying a fine or not. And it's not us giving carte blanche to just mow down all the trees. There's still going to be the buffers. But as far as the development goes, we have no control over that. He can develop it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hyman.
Ms. Harden, we know what the tree ordinance looked like in 2000. Do we have a copy of that, or is it?
I didn't have a copy in the record. I apologize. No, the tree ordinance at the time that it was amended in 2007, it was specifically implemented so that if you had a site plan in place at the time, that your site plan at the time would be honored. So the density on this is not impacted because there was a site plan holding out the density on these properties. That was already approved. And had there been a site plan, a further a more developed site plan, that would have also been held up as being allowed to continue.
Mr. Hyman, I've seen that ordinance from, I think it was 99 was the one I saw. I can't recall the details of it, but I have seen it.
The reason I ask is just given some kind of benefit of the doubt. I mean, if the meeting of the minds was that they require more of a buffer, there had to be a reason for that. And I think part of the reason is to buffer them from another community, that kind of thing.
One of the big changes of the UDO, if I remember correctly, was the addition of a lot of buffer details. And buffer discussions have been a long-standing discussion with a lot of communities over the years. So in 2000, when this was adopted with buffers around the perimeters to quote unquote protect the people outside of the PUD and to buffer the inside. And I keep calling PUD as a PD, apologize. Then there's also, it moves forward into the discussion onto tree ordinance and it moves on into the discussion of the Unified Development Ordinance. So buffers in Conway are actually a really unique thing in the area and have been a big discussion point for us in the office since I've been here.
Anyone else? Ms. Goldfinch?
Mayor, I think Mr. Hyman makes an excellent point in that if this was not a planned district, there would only be 15 feet required for buffer. But you're getting more than that. You're getting 25. Okay, and then like Mr. Hubbard said, there's nothing that we can do to stop them from developing this. We can just work with them to make sure it's developed responsibly. As to the flooding, we have standards that any development has to adhere to that actually reduces the flood. And it took me a long time to realize that, but it's true. And Mayor, with that, I would move that we approve first reading of said ordinance.
Is there a second? Ms. Timms?
Second.
Now for additional questions and comments. Are there any? I'm sorry, the council, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ms. Harden, if you would help me with some questions, please. My asking these questions does not infer that, does not imply that your issue paper wasn't well-written.
No.
There are just some things that I want to know to make certain that as we approach this request, that we're all dealing with the same facts.
Yes, ma'am.
So isn't it true that there's nothing about this property or the intended development that is so unique or so specialized that it requires considerable special concerns? Let me restate that it requires special consideration.
We haven't been able to identify anything topographically that makes it unique. And that's the kind of thing that we look at for variances and the like. We look at the conditions of the site. There are other wooded areas in the city of Conway that have large trees. We have a couple more that have already been talking to us. Yeah.
And while a number has not been determined, this property has massive numbers of trees. Is that right?
There are a lot of trees, and to be fair to the developer, a lot of them are pines, which are not covered under our tree protection ordinance. Pine trees are not protected in any way, and can be taken down.
Right, but most of the others are.
The hardwoods are the ones that are covered under the tree protection ordinance.
Thank you.
And certain types of them, yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the city has up to this point, up to this date, never completely waived its ordinance relative to tree removal for anybody?
I've never found that to be the case. No, ma'am.
Isn't it also true that the city does often reduce costs associated with mitigation for tree removal for applicants?
Yes, ma'am. There are two different ways that can occur. One is by replanting, mitigating what you take down by replanting. And if that's not available, you can go to the tree board and ask for relief from the fee or from the mitigation or from both. And that's a review board.
So the city's tree board does in fact have the authority to reduce those figures, those costs.
All the way down to nothing, yes.
For any illegal removal of trees.
Or for any legal removal of trees.
Or legal, absolutely. So that authority extends for them to lessen the mitigation fees for any applicant that they have the authority to lessen the amount for
Yes,
any
ma'am.
applicant, is that right?
Lessen and or waive.
I think you'll agree with me that the city of Conway has been a tree city for 35 years.
I will agree with that, yes.
All right. Do you also agree that designation as a tree city speaks to the city's commitment to protect trees and to promote a philosophy to value trees?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree that trees provide habitat for wildlife? Trees provide cooling, shade, trees improve air quality, trees provide oxygen and drink water. Some species have been known to drink hundreds of gallons of water a day.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
agree with that?
I agree.
Is it also true that water consumption by trees is particularly important to coastal South Carolina and to Conway, South Carolina, that has been the epicenter of some some devastating floodwater in a couple of recent hurricanes.
Yes, ma'am.
Does being designated as a tree city require that you have a tree care ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Wouldn't you assume that you would have to abide by your ordinance if it
It's-
requires that you have one?
It's explicit. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Does being a tree city require a community forestry program?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that a tree city requires there be a tree board?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the city of Conway, that tree board is the community appearance board, is it not?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So any applicant who seeks relief on the amount of money that may be charged for removal of trees has an opportunity to go before that board. Isn't
Yes,
that true? And I don't believe this applicant has ever asked for any relief through that tree board.
Not through the tree board, no, ma'am.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And the city's tree ordinance is in place to protect trees and speaks to all applicable rules. Is that kind of what that document is?
Yes, ma'am.
The tree ordinance also regulates the full protection of some trees and puts in place penalties for the removal of trees, often with some penalties like mitigation fees. Is that correct?
It is. The penalties come if you don't get a permit prior to.
Okay. The tree ordinance as it sits in the city of Conway applies to everyone, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's never been waived up to this date.
No, ma'am.
Isn't it true that our staff treated this applicant like it would treat any other applicant?
That's my understanding, yes.
Have you found any way, any difference in this application process as compared to what has been requested of other people, by other people?
I found that the staff had actually reduced some of the cost by looking at keeping some of the trees in the buffer area and accounting them toward mitigation. So that when I went through and reviewed it, my count for how much would be charged was more than what was actually discussed with the applicant, because there was some remediation that was allowed by staff.
So there was already some relief offered.
And my staff does that on a regular basis.
Okay. Would you agree that Conway's ordinance is no more restrictive or taxing than other such ordinances statewide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you also agree that Conway's tree ordinance has been used as a model by other cities in the state?
Yes, ma'am. It has.
Would you disagree that the Municipal Association has even involved its lobbyists to act to secure the authority of cities statewide to enact, maintain, and enforce tree ordinances?
Would I disagree? I'm
Let me
sorry,
say it
the
again.
wording was a little, I missed the first part.
Sure, absolutely.
Got caught on the word disagree. Sorry.
Do you disagree that the Municipal Association, as right now, has its lobbyists involved in securing the authority of city statewide to enact, to maintain and enforce tree ordinances?
I'm simply unaware at this
Okay.
point. I apologize.
All right, that's okay. I'm not going to ask for any definition or anything, but you do generally know what due process is, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And would I be in error to say that due process by government is generally the application of rules equitably and fairly to everybody?
When done right, yes, ma'am.
That what you require of me, you require of Larry, William, Shane. Is that right?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you also agree that to do anything different than that means that somebody is either harmed or somebody is unequally favored when government fails to apply its laws equitably, fairly, the same to everybody?
I think it's definitely possible. Yes, ma'am.
Do you disagree with me that government gains credibility when it exercises equity and fairness and consistency in its enforcement of laws and regulations?
I do not disagree with that statement.
Isn't it true that the Cherry Hill Baptist Church property in Conway is also a planned district?
It is, yes, ma'am.
was Cherry Hill Baptist Church allowed to remove many of the trees that it found sitting in the way of its design?
Not without review and approval.
All right. I think that's all I needed to hear.
Thank you, ma'am.
We will now call a vote. All in favor, and I'll ask you individually, all in favor of approval of first reading of allowing this waiver of the city's tree ordinance? Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Goldfinch? Is that a yes? Mr. White?
No.
Ms. Timms?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
And Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
My response is no. Thank you. This motion carries, but not unanimously. We'll move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is item, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Mayor, in discussions with the developers, given the nature of what they want to do and the urgency and the fact that we have, I think we've been very due diligence, done our due diligence in terms of trying to change this tree ordinance to make it less punitive to not just developers, but residential homeowners alike. We have held them off for a long period of time. And, you know, what they need to do in this community, we need that type of service. And I was just gonna, I know this is the last meeting of the year, but I was gonna make a motion that we have a meeting in 2 weeks. There's some other things going on so that we could get this done, so it's not to hold them up anymore.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Mr. Hyman?
When would that meeting
I'll
be?
do the 20th. I think there's also municipal training that day for new candidates and the new council members as well.
There's a motion on the floor to have a call meeting on December 20th for the purpose of moving this forward in this calendar year.
Would that be at 4 p.m. also? Is that the request?
I would not be here.
There's municipal training on that date. Yeah. Is that-
It's already seconded.
Okay.
The municipal training for the newly elected council members is that evening at 5. So if we're going to do this, it would probably need to be at 4, so we don't end up here very late.
So how do we determine the convenience of that day and time for council members generally?
There's a motion.
Sitting.
I think it goes by majority vote for a special call meeting.
Well, my question isn't whether or not there's the authority to
Back
call
in time.
for and vote for a special meeting. My question has to do with what if council members aren't available that day? I mean, this is the first I heard of it. Does that mean I don't get?
If there's a mutually agreeable date and time, that would be preferable, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not trying to run, I'm just, we've held them up a long time, and if this is going to pass.
I think our next planned meeting is January.
That's right.
Well, there has been quite a delay in this decision, but this was on the agenda earlier and it was taken off the agenda. So I don't know that this necessarily cleans that up. Maybe we can work on a date and time outside of this session. Is that allowed?
Since what I'd like is a vote for holding the meeting, and then we can find an agreeable date and time that meets FOIL.
So there's a motion on the floor to hold a call meeting before the end of the calendar year. All in favor with show of hands, please. And all who would vote no. So the motion carries. And there will be another meeting. Hopefully it will be scheduled at a time that is agreeable for everyone. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is item 8, public hearing and second reading of ordinance ZA 2021-1206B to include a future right-of-way for the Conway Perimeter Road Phase 2 and on the official map for the city of Conway. So we'll wait, Ms. Harden, until I think several people are leaving now. Good night. Yes, sir. Good night. Ms. Harden.
Thank you, ma'am. This is the second reading and first, or the public hearing for a future right-of-way for Conway's Perimeter Road Phase 2 to add it to the official map of the city of Conway. We did send 10 letters, posted 2 signs, and the legal ad ran. This is an official map amendment, which is allowed under Title 6, Chapter 7, Sections 1210 through 1280 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina. Basically, all that says is that a municipality is allowed to put on a map regulations based on districts like zoning and the like, corridor overlays based on roadways, and to put special note or special items on the map of some concern or some import to the city so that the property owners and any future development would be aware of these items. We are following the path of the county, who also has already done this. In November of 2016, Horry County voters supported the 1 cent capital improvement tax, and that tax expires in 2025. So the projects that are going on through there are ones that are being used, that money is being used throughout the county. For Conway, the perimeter road is proposed to connect 701 to 378, and at 378, it would align with the El Bethel road that we discussed earlier with the middle school site. So that this would provide an additional means of transportation for Conwayites around the city from 701 up to 378. Estimated budget of $18.4 million. And the project has entered the right-of-way acquisition process. If we were to grant a permit on properties that are cited by the DOT as being those of interest, then we potentially have a case where we would accidentally increase the cost of doing the road project, and might mean that we would get less of the road project done, or might even, if it's big enough, would upend the project. So rather than doing that, we propose that we add the path of the Conway Perimeter Road to our official map to make this aware that folks that are building in that area would need to take that into consideration. It's not necessarily a barrier to building. It is take this into consideration when you're doing your design so that what you're doing doesn't negatively impact that road path. The Planning Commission received the request and also recommended approval, as does staff.
Thank you, ma'am. This is also a public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak either in favor of or against this ordinance? Period. Yes, sir. From Blaine, Spain.
Cedric Blaine, Spain, resident of Kate Spade Highway, Sandridge community. We stand in opposition of this proposal. This road, I know part of it is in the city and everything, but we have residents in our community that are senior citizens, 80 years old, that would be adversely affected. 83-year-old stand to lose her home and others because of this Conway Perimeter Road. And so we ask you tonight to join us in the Sandridge community, and we still in opposition against this Conway Perimeter Road. I will not, because I spoke on it before. I just want to stand on behalf of the community, say, please deny this. This is, I don't know. It's just overwhelming that laws can allow developers to benefit. You just annex almost 80-some acres of property that would benefit a developer because of this highway. But then our residents, our senior citizens that are 80-some years old, that's been on their inheritable property all of these years, will lose their homes because of a highway to get people to Myrtle Beach. How fair can it be that developers and others benefit from this, but your natives who've been on their property, their generational property for 80 years because of a Conway perimeter road, Ride 3 is certainly not a friend to the Sand Ridge community. God woe on this city, on this county about Ride 4. We stand in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? Yes, sir, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Michael. I live on 3368 Merganser Drive. I'm one of the homes that are affected by this. My boss and I moved here on September 30th of this year, and we knew nothing about this. We didn't find out that this was happening until maybe middle of October 15th or 16th. We knew nothing of this. And I apologize if my questions are redundant, but again, I'm asking out of ignorance. How much of the woods and foliage is going to be taken down or destroyed? Excuse me, destroyed with this road?
Well, I think you might have heard me say earlier that this isn't a time to be, that we're interactive and I can answer your questions. I don't know that that's something we know. Most of the property is outside, well, I don't know about most, but much of the property is outside the corporate limits of the city. And we have sketchy information. I don't know that we could ever answer your question specifically. But if you'll take that card, if you have similar questions, our staff will try very hard to
My other
help
question,
you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My other question is, we have a retention ditch. It's on my property. Do we know what's going to be when they do this road? Because from what the gentleman told me, they're coming right on a corner to my property. They're taking a good chunk of it. And a lot of those woods and the retention is going to go away.
Let me ask you one quick question. Do you live in the city?
Excuse me?
Do you live in the city limits? All right, well, we
I'm
should,
one of the homes affected.
hopefully we'll be able to give you an answer when you call that person.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else, please?
My 2 hours is up. I don't want to give you any more.
Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you. Drive safely. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? There being none, I will move that we close the public hearing at this time. Mr. White, second. Thank you. All in favor of the show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all so much. Item 9, consideration. Consideration of.
We need to have a vote on the underlying on that one first.
Mayor, I did have just one question.
Yes, sir. Please ask your questions. I'll regroup.
So, what we're discussing tonight
Yes.
is not whether or not this road is coming. It's just a
No.
matter of if we're going to map it. My assumption is the purpose for the map is to keep something from like what happened to that guy from happening.
Yes, sir. And I'm absolutely happy to answer questions from the public if ever you want me to up here. The question about how long has this been going on has been several years. And the question about how much will be taken is very much about where the road path is planned. And there is some flexibility, but there's less flexibility if we don't set it aside on the map and say, this is the general area. And if anything else is going on in this area, we need to make sure that we're taking DOT into consideration when doing these.
So, Mr. Blaine, if you'll allow me just to say that, as to your comment, we're not approving this new
Right.
road, the perimeter road. We're just approving the designation of a map so that people understand what's coming.
And this road is not to go to the beach. This is to help people move around Conway.
So we still have there's a motion on the floor to, is there a motion on the floor? There's no motion, Mr. Goldberg. I assume that you.
I'll be happy to. And just to clarify your point, this is not the road's coming. This is just to be able to warn other people that the road is. That's the fact. Okay, so that's my motion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hubbard? Second. We have a properly seconded motion to approve the issue before us, which has to do with including a future right-of-way official map for the city of Conway. All in favor, please show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Item 9A, consideration of a request for waiver of sidewalk requirements for White Oak Estates. Ms. Hutz.
Yes, ma'am. This development is located on Culture Road. It's a 16-lot, single-family development. They're currently close to being able to receive approval of their preliminary plans. The applicant is requesting to pay the fee in lieu of sidewalk installation. Based on the preliminary plans that were submitted, there is approximately 810 linear feet of sidewalk that would be required along the frontage of the development. Based on the $24.25 cost per linear foot, the estimate for a fee in lieu of sidewalk installation is $19,637.65. If approved, fee in lieu payments are then used by the city to build or complete pedestrian, bikeway, and or path systems. Culture Road is a state road. It's classified as a collector road. Collector roads, their primary function is to carry traffic between cul-de-sac, local and sub-collector streets, and streets of higher classification such as arterial roads like Main Street and Highway 501, but which also may provide direct access to abutting properties. The applicant, Mr. Becker, who represents this development, is here. If you guys have any questions, or if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Is there a sidewalk on either side this would connect to?
There is not at this time. Aldi's, which was constructed a few years ago on the corner of Highway 501 and Culture Road, was required to put sidewalks. This is also in the village corridor overlay, which states that sidewalks shall be installed along major roadways or adjacent to public roadways. It's anticipated that at some point the adjacent parcel, although not currently in the city, may eventually annex and be developed as well, and in which case they would be required to either put sidewalks in or request a fee in lieu as well. But at this time, there is no sidewalk except for Tiger Grand. They are within the development and they go up to Cultural Road.
Second question. So DOT roads, they decide to ride.
Yes, I actually spoke with the DOT this morning, and it is on the 2040 GSAT's Metropolitan Transportation Plan to widen Culture Road as a recommendation in their plan, but it may be up to 10 years before that is actually done, if done, even at that time.
Yes, when DOT comes in and widens those, and Adam, this may be something you can answer from time in the county, will they put anything back, or is that because it's right away, they don't put it back?
Well, typically, a DOT manual right now requires a walkway of some sort on new roads. For widened roads, I don't think the jury's out, are still out on that. So I think we would be hopeful and would ask that they would put in a sidewalk along the entire pathway when it gets widened, if it gets widened. But I think the interim period is a concern.
Actually, and he said, if there is sidewalks installed, it shows that there is a need for sidewalks. The plan actually calls for a multi-use path. So even if it wouldn't be a sidewalk, the plan, if implemented, would be a multi-use path for that area.
The big concern is we've been hearing for at least 10 years that Culture Road's going to get widened. And this council's kind of made a point that we want sidewalks. But at the same time, do we wait and collect the money and pay it once they widen it? Go ahead and do it.
Kingston Bay, which is a little bit further down on the opposite end, they actually got a fee in lieu approved a year or two ago, but they have since opted to install sidewalks. Yes. Mhm. Yes.
Are there other questions? Yes, there's something called Complete Streets. And that's where we are trying to make sure that there are sidewalks along the roadway. And in that area where we're talking Culture Road, that's a highly traveled road, and sidewalks would be a plus for those folks so that they won't be walking in the highway in that area.
That's
So
correct.
I just wanted to make sure we thought about that as well. Even though it does not connect to something else, there's a need.
Any other questions? What is the will of council? Mr. Helms.
I make a motion, we deny the request.
Second. Second.
Excuse me. I didn't hear what you said.
I was just gonna add something about the sidewalk reopening date.
All right, all in favor of denying this request, raise your right hand, please. This is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Timms, for filling in. Item B is consideration of a request for waiver of sidewalk requirements for Woodside crossing. Ms. Hutz.
Right. Woodside Crossing is, this is on 4 Mile Road. It's across the way from the rezoning request that you guys looked at earlier tonight. It's a 407 lot, single family home development. There currently is no sidewalks on either side at this time, although the school district across the road does have sidewalks implemented. If approved, based on the 24.25 per linear foot, the fee in lieu would be $31,471.65.
Mr. White.
Mayor, same issue as before, the previous event. There is another school out there in that area as well, correct?
Yes, it's actually off of Old Dunn Lane, and they actually did receive a fee in lieu approval last year for their sidewalks, but it's not technically on 4 Mile. It's off of Old Dunn Lane, which is likely a less traveled
And I would like to
roadway.
go back on record is about the complete street issue, please.
Yes, with this development coming into the city a couple of years ago, there obviously will at some point be increased development surrounding this development as well.
Thank you.
Isn't it true that we have no way to predict what, if we accept the fee in lieu, there's no way for us to predict that that fee paid today would actually pay for the sidewalks once they become more urgent at a future date.
That's correct. The 24.25 now might cover today, but in 10 years if sidewalks were needed, it could very well double in cost.
Thank you.
Mayor, we spoke earlier about 4 Mile Road being somewhat of the cutoff. And I predict that we're going to be seeing a lot of that area probably develop with the new school and all of that. But I think as far as that, if we're doing a lot of fee in lieu rather than requiring it, we're going to be behind the 8 ball. Yes.
I agree. Mr. White.
I move that we deny.
Is there a second? Ms. Tibbs?
Second.
All right, we have a properly seconded motion to deny the applicant's request to provide a fee in lieu rather than constructing sidewalks. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of the show of hands, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We're now at item 10, the city administrator's report. Mr. Emmerich.
All right, well, tonight's report is almost fully Christmas themed. Thank you all for attending the Christmas tree lighting. We estimated that we had at least 5,000 people in attendance. And we definitely have some changes needed for next year to make it more efficient and effective, although that location was definitely superior to 3rd Avenue, which we capped out at about 2,500 people 2 years ago. So what we are seeing is crowds that are far exceeding our expectations for all of our Christmas events so far, and even events leading into the Christmas season. And it's kind of across the board. At the Christmas Regatta on Saturday, the entirety of the Riverwalk was elbow to elbow. Riverfront Park had crowds as early as 4 p.m. waiting for the launch. It was an amazing showing for that event, and it is all put on by Rhonda Hardy. No city assistance really at all. So congratulations to Rhonda for that event. It's growing. It's the 4th year. So celebration of lights numbers through the first weekend, 6,842 people. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Under the Lights 5K had 375 runners. That's right, Ashley, 375. The Shoe Fly Train Friday, Saturday, Sunday had 747 riders. And those numbers are all up. It's remarkable. So I think we're doing something right. A reminder about our staff and council Christmas party, which is tomorrow at 5:30 at the Sports and Fitness Center. Also a reminder about breakfast with Santa at the Sports and Fitness Center on Saturday, which is followed by the Christmas parade. Again, we'll be riding the train again, and we need to be in place no later than 9:30. Keep in mind that sometimes it's hard to find a parking place, so to get to the train by 9:30, you might need to leave a little bit earlier than that. Usually we're on 16th Avenue by Bellasinos. I'll confirm that prior to Saturday, but that's where we'll probably be. I also want to congratulate Amanda Butler, our newest city councilwoman, who won the runoff 2 weeks ago. And both Miss Butler and Beth Helms will join our council on January 3rd, which leads me to my final point before turning over the reins to Allison Harden, our planning director, for her update. And Allison, are you going to? Oh, and David Krotz for the finance update. Tonight is sort of the last official meeting for Gene Timms, who's been on council for 19 years, all right, never mind, I'm going to skip that. I was going to say she's older than most people in this room, but that's not true, Gene, I'm sorry. Jean has been a perennial thorn in my side since I've been with the city, but she's also been my biggest mentor. I want to thank you for your leadership and your guidance and your trust in me and the love for the city. So let's go to David first. Thank you, Jean.
Mayor and council, last year we started the angel tree and it was a success. So we decided to bring it back. It helped out about 40 families. I know it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but we average about 200 accounts that are past due every month. So it came out to be about 20% of the accounts that were past due. And it looks like we're going to have a better year this year. We've already had people calling and inquiring about it. So we're very excited about it. And we think it's going to be able to help out some families this year for Christmas.
Thanks so much, Mr. Potts. Wonderful program.
You didn't want a brief report, right? Because I didn't prepare a brief report.
You have a long report?
Hi. If you haven't met me, I'm Allison Harden. And I'm the Director of Planning and Development. And I wrote this up in case there were people in the room that didn't know what planning does, because a lot of our reports are about what we work at. But I wanted to make sure that we know that people know that planning and development does, they will review new development and construction projects in the city, review annexations and for projects that want to be in the city, and help create a positive atmosphere where business can grow and residents can relax. Our department is made up of 7 members. We have the zoning administrator and zoning officer that review commercial and residential permits, helping keep an order in the development process. We have a planner who reviews subdivisions and manages the bonds that ensure that those subdivision infrastructure is completed. We have an arborist landscape planner who helps people with tree questions and designs wonderful green spaces like the garden walk and the floral designs at the entrance points and the welcome signs. We have 2 GIS mapping gurus. I know they've got a better title, but guru is actually a good word. And they regularly work on map projects for the entire city, as well as keep the city zoning and addressing data clean and accessible. And I have 1 planning assistant who, bless her heart, has to keep up with all of that. Sometimes the projects need a little bit of finessing. Either they need design guidance or they need some flexibility with the code, or maybe they just need permission for a change. When this happens, the staff works with one of 4 of our review boards, the Planning Commission, the Community Appearance Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Tree Preservation Board to help move these projects through the system of checks and balances. I arrived in Conway just over 4 months ago. Feels like 40, but it's 4 months. And I'm thrilled to be here still. I hope that I'm here tomorrow too, and the next day of the next. But I have had a whirlwind introduction into how much development Conway is experiencing and processing. And to give you an idea of what that means, I took some numbers over the last 4 weeks of some, but not all of the things that our staff has done in the past 4 weeks. We participated in the review of 597 commercial and residential projects that brought in over $250,000 in fee revenue. We completed 114 zoning reviews, including the distribution of 66 zoning letters by one staff member. Those zoning letters are needed for property transfers, for construction permits, and sometimes for refinancing. So those things, those little things that people have to do to get their lives in order, sometimes they come through our office and we try and get it done very quickly. We reviewed commercial projects, large and small, including a natural gas pipeline and cell tower placement and a Starbucks.
You don't have to try to talk as fast as Adam. We're
I
okay.
can't do it. Just give me a minute. I'm not even rolling yet.
Espresso.
We reviewed subdivision plans totaling 4,294 potential new units in the city limits. 4,294, with 455 currently under platting or under permitting as of today. We reviewed 2 tax incentive properties, and we've discussed tax incentive with other businesses that want to come to Conway. They want to be here because the vibe is cool and they appreciate what you guys have been doing over the last few years. It's been wonderful. We added 62 new addresses to the city's database so that police and fire could find where things are, and updated 200 water meters. Assisted with the calculation of the city's stormwater fees, and created a new water valve hydrant maintenance dashboard, which is a GIS online mapping for the fire department. My staff creates 14 crime maps every Monday based on information from the last week and get it done before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, plus a hot zone map for the fire department. And then just 48 hours ago, we hosted a tree giveaway with trees that were provided by Duke Energy on behalf of the South Carolina Floodwater Commission through their Power Plant SC program. The 400 trees were distributed in a record time, and when planted, will result in the absorption of 16,000 gallons of floodwater and carbon processing to offset 163 gallons of gas burned. That's just as they are now. And those trees were this big. I could easily fit several of them in my trunk if I had tried. And that's a lot. And I'm a little tired, but I'm not half as tired as I could be, because I'm fortunate to have a wonderful group of coworkers that operate like a fine-tuned helping machine. And so you will get to know this about me if I get to stay. God bless you, please let me stay. But I just subscribe to the charge to give me my flowers while I live, so that I could have the beauty that they bring, and speak kind words to me while I can hear them, so I can hear the comfort that they bring. That I want to thank you for developing such a high quality staff. You've hired and allowed them to train and allowed them to become what they are. And it serves the citizens of Conway every day. It is a real honor to work with excellent folks like these, because I've worked with some really good ones and I've worked with some that aren't. Not naming names anywhere. I've been in the business 30 years, not just one trick pony. But these folks are truly committed to helping Conway be the best place around for your family to live, to raise your family, for you to work, for you to play and rest and relax. And that is all anyone can ask for in a community. And I don't know what took me so long getting here, but I am sure glad I'm here. And I am so, so thankful. And let me stay, please.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Ms. Harden. Does that conclude your report, Mr. Emmerich? Yeah. We'll now have council input. I'm pretty certain, Shane, I've picked on you so many times. I'm gonna save you for last, okay? All right. Mr. Harden.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to congratulate staff. I've got small children, and the look on their face when we get I say that my son's look on his face. My daughter's 12, so I got an eye roll. But everything looks fantastic. I can't. I've gotten so many compliments on the water tower and just the way that our town looks, and I'm so excited to live here. And to my fellow council members, we're definitely going to miss you. That being said, Mayor, that's all I've got.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hammond, if you think 12 gives you a roll, wait till she's a teenager. So, but again, on the on the tree lighting, the crowd was tremendous. It was excellent. Family thoroughly enjoyed it. Adam, quick question. You said 5:30 tomorrow? 6. Okay, I had 6, so thank you. And for Miss Jean, thank you for your service to our city. But you can't get away from me because you're my neighbor. So, yeah, but we appreciate
Justin's my snake catcher.
Yeah, don't call me for that. But no, we certainly appreciate your service and wish you the very best. And same for Shane. Thank you for your last 4 years of service for our city as well. That's all I have there.
Thank you so much. Ms. Timms herself.
Shane, I've enjoyed our time together. I'll speak to you first, and it's been enjoyable. I thought tonight was gonna be my last meeting, but maybe not after we add another one in, but I think it'll be the last one where I'll see a lot of staff, and I did want to speak to some of them at this point in time. I'm very grateful for my 19 years of service on council. It's been a wonderful experience, and I hope I've represented the city well, and now it's time for some of the others to have this experience. So I look forward to their interaction. Every time you get a new council has to flex and changes. And it becomes a new body. So I think it's interesting, and I'll be watching to see what happens. Conway is a very special place, and it's perfectly beautiful this year. I've been through the celebration of lights. It's wonderful. It's got some new things that I really like, and thanks to staff. But you know, staff keeps us going all year long, whether it's the daily work that we do or whether it's the added pieces that come in, like the pumpkins in the trees or the mural on the wall or lights at Christmas. Conway's always special, and I'm glad to call it home. When I first was put on council back in 2002, God, a long time ago, I received 2 pieces of advice. And the first one was from my younger son. If any of you know him, you would expect him to say this. He said, keep your head down and your butt low. And that was true. I didn't know council could become a contact sport at times, but I learned that pretty soon. And the second piece of advice is, I don't know whether this was for William or for Adam, but it said, be a nuisance where it counts. So that's my advice to you people coming on, be a nuisance where it counts. Get it done if it needs to be done. Thank you all, staff, for all that you've done for all of us. You make us look good every day. And we need all the help we can get in that department, because we have the hard job of saying no to somebody every time they come to a meeting. And, you know, it's like Clemson Carolina ball game. There's booze on every play. So you don't know who's going to be in your camp and who isn't. But thank you for all the support that you've given me, and thank you for all the time. Thank you, Mayor. Not just for your support, but for your friendship. Thank you. And thank you, Ashley, for my flowers.
It's my fault they got moved. I couldn't see. I couldn't see on the other end. Mr. White, you want to follow that?
Oh, yeah, girl. Ms. Jean and Shane, thank you again for working with us on council. And I sure enough have learned a lot from both of you. The Christmas tree lighting was good. Got to do something about sound, but other than that, it was very well. And the water tower, that was tops. And I even put a picture on Facebook with me on top of the Christmas tree.
Heavens forbid.
And let's be mindful of this new variant that's coming on. It's here. We don't know when it's gonna get to us specifically, individually, collectively, but let's be aware of that and do as much as we can to stay safe during the Christmas holiday season. I had a cousin from Marion that is interested in the train. They want to know how they can get a train in Marion, like when we got in Conway. I told them to call Adam.
They can't have one.
I told him it was an inside thing. And I do thank you for that as well. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of upset with us because we did not do fairness to the city of Conway. We bend our rules and we changed our rules, and I'm very much upset about that. A young lady, Miss Cheryl Adamson, was here earlier asking for a meeting for the Whittemore Elementary School issue. Nothing was said about that. Here, this young man wants to build something, and we bent over backwards to give him what he wants. I do not like that. Secondly, Smith Jones. We've been trying to get the pool at Smith Jones fixed for 2 years. None of us have spoken up about what are we going to do. No disrespect, but council I'm speaking to now. We need to do something a little bit better about the way we do business in Conway. And I am a little bit upset tonight. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. Have a good Christmas. I'll not come to the meeting in December. I'll see you in January. Thank you.
Right.
12 years I worked with Eugene. And it's been a roller coaster. It's been through a lot. Some really good things. And, you know, I had a lot I was gonna say, but I'm not, because I don't think I'll get through it. But, you know, other than to say, now when that phone number pops up on your phone, maybe I will cringe as bad. 12 years. But I can say that with a lot of love, because I do love them. And even though I'm like, what is that lady thinking sometimes? When I'm in a jam or I'm confused about something, you're the first person I think of to call. And so I will say I love you. This city, people in the city have no idea what you've done to make the city what it is. People just don't know what they don't know. And, you know, we see it. And so thank you. That was one thing. Second thing, Mayor, I was going to bring this up downstairs, but since Larry brought it up, I want to comment on it. I did not mean to rock the boat. That was not my intention, okay? If my proposing another meeting is illegal or improper, I'll rescind it, okay? We have been dragging this developer that wants to build retirement homes for people who need assisted living for a long time. And I know there's a process, but we were unsuccessful in trying to revamp our tree ordinance. That is very punitive to residents and developers. We could not come to a conclusion on that. And this was the solution. So if I did anything to upset anyone, I am truly sorry. That is not who I am. And if we need to not have a meeting, then let's not have a meeting. And that's fine. And I can sleep with that. I just was trying to help them because they said they've got year-end stuff that they need to line up with financing and everything else. And I said, well, I will ask if we can have a meeting. And that's what I did. Nothing underhanded, nothing ill-intentioned, just that. So, yeah.
I'd say Merry Christmas, but not quite yet. I'll see you again. Mr. Hubbard.
Well, Gene took my farewell speech. Looks like we're gonna work it out to the end. I have another meeting, but I do want to say, just in case we don't, Ms. Tim, you have been quite an inspiration to me, being on this council. I've learned so much from everybody here. I think everybody should start learning. We know how decisions are made. Adam was on radio the other morning, and he said it so well. He said, everybody thinks we just make knee-jerk decisions. All decisions are difficult, and they are. I wish everybody knew what it's like Dean said, somebody's going to lose, and you have sometimes it's a tough thing to do, but we do it. And the other thing I love about this council is we got a little saying that we may not always agree, but we always move this forward. And that's important to making some of these hard decisions that we make. As far as staff goes, A1 top notch. Set up these ideas for Beckwith Conway, but I'm gonna hang on top of it next year. I thought I was gonna say a picture of stuff on top of the board.
Me too.
I'd like to see that next year.
No. Of Larry? Oh, all of us.
But anyway, thank you all, and good play.
Jeez. There is a disadvantage to being last. I think among the people on this council, I have served earlier than anybody. That doesn't mean that I know more than anybody. I've learned a lot. I've learned, just like you said, that we have a right based on our person to disagree on issues. That aside, I know that everybody on this council, I believe with all my heart, that everybody on this council wants what's best for the city of Conway. And I appreciate being a part of this body. I will sorely miss you, Shane Hubbard. Gene Timms, I can't even say your name. We've been here together a long time. But life is about nothing but change. And we're better to embrace it and try to shape it into something that is beautiful. And I think we all have an opportunity to do that. The tree lighting event, oh my gosh, I think it was the most phenomenal success that we've ever had. I live in Chicora. I made it from North Conway to about 4th Avenue quickly. And after that, I could have gotten out of the car and kept up with it. It warms my heart that people are such a real part of this community, that if Conway has something, they want to be there. I think everybody in Conway was there that night, and I think everybody was equally happy with everything that was presented. Timmy, that lighting off that water pole, off the water tower, crazy good. Adam, everybody who thinks of these things, I'll repeat to people every day, almost every single day, that when I get complimented about something, I say, no, I'm not the one. Because I constantly say to somebody on our staff, man, I wish that was my idea. And it almost never was. But that's all right. We're gonna keep you thinking. We're gonna give you vitamins. We're going to push those things that you push, because what you've proven is that your ideas are wonderful. And that's where your council comes in to back you up and make sure you get a chance to make us glow, because that's what you do very well. While you're shopping for Christmas, I know this is near the end for many of us, please remember our small privately owned businesses. They are in dire need, and this is one of their better seasons if we'll make it so. My dentist likes to tell me that he does all of his Christmas shopping in downtown Conway, and I wish I could reciprocate, but let's do more and more as we move along. There is there's a person who's with us this evening who, when I first got to know him, I just knew that there was something unique and special and honorable about him. You know, sometimes you just know it. I mean, it's hard to describe. But that person was hired as a firefighter for the city in 2001, reclassified to a firefighter 2 in 2002. I mean, how quickly can you move up? He was promoted to fire sergeant in 2006, to fire lieutenant in 2008. constantly proving his leadership acumen and his loyalty, dedication, professionalism when it comes to firefighting in this city. In June 2012, he was made a fire captain. And as of December 4th, 2021, he's been named our assistant fire chief. My friend, of whom I'm so proud, Jason Perzan, would you please stand? I'm so proud of you. I hope I haven't embarrassed you. If I did, it's just too bad. Awesome, awesome, very good. And now, June, are we ready? We have a new servant we'll call Quattlebaum. Quattlebaum is Santa's new helper. And you'll see Quattlebaum sitting on the corner of, dangerously sitting on the corner of the upstairs of City Hall. He is our resident elf on the shelf, and his job is to help Santa to identify naughtiness. And you may see him anywhere. I mean, could you get the face a little clearer? Is there a way to, oh, no, no, we can't. Oh, there, a little bit. And we don't have the shot on the sidewalk. We need just one more shot. So I should have prepared you, June. I think we know who that is. I think he's sitting on the front row. That's Quattlebaum. Meet Quattlebaum. And do we have the other shot, please? Oh. I mean, that one would have just like taken the cake. There he is. Wave at Quattlebaum. You know, it's amazing that you see somebody in a professional stature, like most of the day, every day. And then you come to be reminded very often that he is just as quick to put on the costume and be silly and enjoy life, which is something that is I think it's something to be honored, because if we can't do that every now and then we're too full of ourselves. We're proud. Yeah. And you want the one on the sidewalk team. Well, he did a glamour shot on the 3rd Avenue sidewalk that, I mean, you have to see to believe. I just ran out to see it for myself. Anyway, so Adam, to you. Thank you for being such a good sport, for spreading cheer and grins. Those men in those pickup trucks didn't know what to make of you, but you did it anyway. And I thank you for being so quick to draw a smile. That's a quality that not enough people have. Thank you so much. And now we are, I think that's all I need to say. Just staff generally, you guys are fabulous. Thank you for working here. Thank you for shining for us. Thank you for all you do. We are now going to go into executive session. The purposes for which are A, consideration of appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. I know Shane and Jean can't wait to do this one more time. Pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A1. And B, a discussion of annual evaluation of the city administrator. I don't know whether we should have just seen that photo, but pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A1. After which time we will reconvene, and if any decisions are made, once we've reconvened, we will certainly let you know about any actions that were taken. Wait around if you like. I want to welcome both Beth Helms and Amanda Butler to this council. Just imagine, maybe not the next time we sit, but the first time we sit in January, you'll be here. Change is always good. And we do turn into a different body, but we just get better and better and better. And you'll really say that when I'm gone. So anyway,
Motion to go into executive session.
Motion, please, to go into executive session. Mr. Hyman,
Mayor, I'd make a motion to go into executive session.
Ms. Timms. We have a properly seconded motion to go into executive session. At this time, all in favor with a show of hands, please. And it's unanimous. Thank you so much. We will now go do that. Thank you all for your staying. Yeah.